Okay, I gotta record this for a second, sorry. You are looking at Thorstein Veblen's Theory of the Leisure Class. Okay, so in each little paragraph, I think it'll be much easier to figure out the argument in each little paragraph than to try and read the whole thing and sum up the whole argument because it is so dense. So what I'm going to have you do is we're going to be in groups of, let's say, 4. You're going to read this with the group of 4. You're going to read one paragraph, pause, figure out together what the argument is, and put it in the space between the paragraph, and just keep doing that for each paragraph. It ends on the second page. So once it gets into this part about conspicuous consumption, stop reading. It's just these 2 pages. So let's get you into groups. Let's see. 1, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Let's count to 6.
5,
1,
2,
3,
1, 2.
Nylan. 5, 6.
2, 5.
No more. All right, everybody. 1s come on up here. 2s come on right here. 3s right there. 4s back by the door. 5s back by Eli, and 6s back by the cupboards back there.
Wow. For you.
Sorry.
All right, let's do the first one together. Ready? The end of acquisition and accumulation is conventionally held to be the consumption of the goods accumulated, whether it is consumption directly by the owner of the goods or by the household attached to him and for his purpose identified with him in theory. This is at least felt to be the economically legitimate end of acquisition, which alone it is incumbent on the theory to take account of. Such consumption may, of course, be conceived to serve the consumer's physical wants, his physical comfort, or his so-called higher wants, spiritual, aesthetic, intellectual, or whatnot. The latter class of wants being served indirectly by an expenditure of goods after the fashion familiar to all economic readers. All right, you get what I mean by this being really difficult stuff? Okay, tell me what, let's sort of figure this out. What does it mean to acquire? Yeah, Jeff. To get stuff, exactly. So the end of getting stuff and accumulating stuff, like the end of getting stuff is usually held to be the consumption of the goods accumulated. So it's kind of talking about the goal. When you say end, it's like the goal. So it's like the goal of acquiring stuff, we usually think is to consume that stuff. So I want to acquire a nice couch so I can sit on that couch. I want to acquire a nice meal so I can eat that meal, etc. For us to use, like to actually use the things that we buy. That's the idea. And it says that's sort of considered a legitimate idea. And it says some consumption may of course be conceived to serve the consumer's physical wants, his physical comfort, or his so-called higher wants, his spiritual, aesthetic, or intellectual comfort. So what does it mean to consume things then for these higher wants? Yeah, so he's also talking about accumulation, like buying a ticket to the movies, right? I'm not actually like owning that movie. I'm not like consuming it in the same way. But it's like serving my higher spiritual functions because, you know, I watched the movie and I enjoyed it and I got some rest and I got some intellectual improvement and so on. And he says, this seems to be a familiar way to look at economics, that we buy things in order to consume them. That this is what we expect of like how our spending habits work. All right, so write down a sentence underneath that first paragraph that sums up that first paragraph. When you put it in those terms, it actually seems kind of obvious, which means we buy stuff in order to use it. Okay, now you kind of know the way that he is going to be writing. In your small groups, read the paragraph. It might help to read the paragraph, have someone in your group read the paragraph out loud. You guys can take turns reading. And then discuss what you think that paragraph means. If you need to look up words, I don't mind if you're on your phone looking up words that it can help you. All right, do your best and we'll talk about it after. Okay, I forgot to record at the end of class. So you're doing that thing with the first 2 pages of Veblen. It goes until the paragraph that starts in making use of the term invidious. And then that paragraph ends with persons in respect of worth. That's where you're stopping on the PDF. Because it has the entire chapter in that PDF, and you definitely do not have to read all of that. And then we talked in class for a second about sort of what his argument was. The students in class did a really good job, so I bet you will too. We talked about how Veblen would see the idea of like buying name brands, for example. He would not think that name brands are more comfortable, that they're more valuable in any kind of physical way. Rather, they are valuable as a status symbol, and so that your community will accept you, but also so that you can prove that you're better than them. It's not just about acceptance, it's about like a rising above. And we talked about how in terms of an economic American dream, Veblen was not a fan of this idea of pursuit, like always looking for the next best thing, because it creates this competition and it is never ending. You will never prove that you are the very best. There is always more money that you can earn and more things that you can buy. And we also talked about how he has this idea that it's not just that you work hard and then you become wealthy. It is that if you are wealthy, people assume that you worked hard. It's reciprocal. It goes both ways. So he said people want to appear wealthy to their neighbors, not just because they have this sense of belonging because they're fitting into their social class. He does say that, but he also says that they want people to think that they are honorable, and wealth in our culture equals honor. And I don't know if I totally believe him on that. Like, I also think like we talk a lot of smack about the wealthy, so you can decide what you think. Anyway, Maddie Rogers did not want me to give you guys homework. She told me to mention that in the video. However, I am giving you homework. She said, because I forgot to record, she was like, oh, I guess they get out of doing the homework. And she was very nice about it, but too bad for Maddie and too bad for you. You have homework. It is a 1-paragraph assignment and it is on Canvas. So do your best to incorporate a Veblen quote into that paragraph. And I will see you later. I hope things at it's DECA, hope they're going well.